Hello, you are listening to the Mantic Universe podcast. I'm Chris, and I'm joined by my good friend Danny. Danny, how are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty well, Christopher. Over here in England. You're over there in Germany, linked by the magic of the internet.
The magic of technology. There we go, buddy.
Lovely hearing your voice again.
Oh, thank you, buddy. Thank you. Likewise. Yes. So, Danny, you have been a sort of roving reporter, not unlike James Bond for us, but a bit cooler for MUP. And you've also done some really fun little, very creative episodes. So thank you ever so much for that. I enjoyed, just as a listener, I enjoyed them very much. So thank you very much. Now, we, as you know, Danny, we put out on the last MUP monthly, we sort of put out our thoughts on the command dice specifically, but the big red book, it's not the big red book, is it? What is it? Clash 25. And we were obviously pretty positive, and we were positive about the command dice, and we sort of said, yeah, I'm looking forward to trying them. But actually, you're not necessarily of that. You don't necessarily have the same view as us. As we said, I think on the episode, you posted the very amusing picture of the slingshot, the toilet paper with the command dice. So I think obviously you're a part of the gang, and I think it's only right that we incorporate your opinion into the podcast.
I think my exact words were, Chris, you're a massive chicken for not letting me on the podcast when you're reviewing the command dice.
Yeah, something like that. Yes. You coward. Yes, something like that. Yeah. And we are, how to say it, we are obviously huge Mantic fans. That's why we spend a ridiculous amount of time doing Mantic stuff, buying Mantic products, and and all the rest of it, making a podcast. And obviously you are as well, Danny. I mean, you go to so many tournaments, you spend so much of your precious free time doing Mantic stuff. So we're coming at this obviously from a position of love, but of course it's not unquestioning. And if we have a difference of opinion, or if we have views that are not just everything Mantic does is brilliant, then obviously we have to, we're sort of duty bound to address that.
So we've got to have a sensible conversation about it. My initial thoughts were like, oh God, not this. But like you said, I'm a massive Mantic fan. Even when they've done minor cock-ups here and there, I've been like, well, never mind, that's not too bad. I've been through quite a lot with Mantic, doing games, watching everything as it's progressed. But Command Dice was the first time I've actually seen something I went, I think they might have messed up here, But obviously,
so you feel that strongly about it? That's interesting.
Not that strongly about it, but it was genuinely, oh God, no moment for me.
It's the first time you felt they've made a major misstep.
Yeah, so it's not a major misstep, but I genuinely don't like it, and I don't think it's great for the game. No, I'm not on board with them.
So maybe let's just quickly explain to the dear listener what the command dice are. So this is an idea borrowed heavily from Vanguard or from Firefight. And at the beginning of every round, each player rolls a certain amount of, you get 3 free dice, you roll them, and you see how many swords you get. You can also buy additional dice, and these sword symbols allow you to do special abilities. And each faction has 2 sort of faction abilities, although they're not specific to that faction. So, for example, that one of the Trident Realms ones is also an Orc one, so they're not completely unique. And then there is a list of, I believe it's 9 generic ones that all armies have access to. Now, from my perspective, it works well in Firefight. But your point, Danny, that you made on Facebook was that, yes, it does work well in Firefight. And I believe you're in the Firefight testing team. But Firefight was designed from the ground up with these dice in mind. So,
the game's played... The two games
completely differently. Yes,
I've always, because Firefight.
So it's
because it's so fast paced, and it's I go then you go in activations. Right. And if you look at a Firefight unit, that unit can go in any direction. You don't know what it's going to do. It can shoot in any direction. It can go in any direction. It can do different orders in order. But whereas in Kings of War, you know exactly where that unit can go, because it can only go back so many inches, it can only go sideways so many inches, it can only charge in different directions or shoot in different areas. You can plan ahead, and by looking at his army, looking at his list, exactly what any unit could possibly do at any one time, and you can plan ahead in your turn. Whereas in Firefight, it's so fast. Those command dice are brilliant because that gives you, it's almost like a power up for the video game. You're like, oh my God, they've done that. Now I need to work out how I'm going to destroy this enemy here and then quickly look over at this side of the battlefield. It's very fast paced and you're constantly looking at different directions and it's changing constantly. It's more of a reactive game, and the Firefight dice work. They basically give you additional things to be able to combat with those reactions. Whereas in Kings of War, it's all out in front of you and you can plan ahead. And
so this is the first point, is that the turn structure of the two games is different. So in Kings of War, obviously, you do everything for your army for your turn, and then your opponent does, or vice versa. Whereas obviously in Firefight, one player activates a unit, and it's back and forth, right, for the round. So you think that because you can do your entire turn, you can plan the whole thing, the command dice or the command abilities are more powerful than in Firefight. So, okay, buddy.
I think the containment protocols is probably the best update I've ever seen on a game ever in Firefight. Firefight's fantastic, and the command dice in that work perfectly. In Kings of War, it's more of a bolt-on afterthought, and actually looking through the list, I've done a couple of test games to see what it's like, and it's just, it's not hitting the spot for me, I'm afraid. And there's lots of different reasons why it's not hitting the spot. So which one do you want to know first?
Okay, buddy. Yeah. So before we dive into it, and obviously we're conscious that we don't want to come across as that we're just moaning about this. So we're trying to keep it light and obviously evidence based. So the first thing I'm going to say is that the thing I mentioned on our review was that I was a little bit worried about gotchas. So if a shambling unit can all of a sudden do something unexpected, that might be a source of bad feeling for players.
Yeah, it's not technically unexpected because you've got the rules in front of you. You know it could possibly do that. But there's loads of metrics like spells, magic items. You can look at an opponent's army list. You know exactly what it can do. I mean, wild charge is random, but you can stay out of that charge range and kind of plan for it. If a unit is super powerful, take a cavalry horde. You're going to hit by a cavalry horde, you're probably going to die. However, you can plan ahead by putting your unit in terrain, and all of a sudden it goes from hitting on 3s and wounding on 3s to hitting on 4s and wounding on 4s, and that might give you the edge, and then you can plan to countercharge that and take it off. They might give that unit Pathfinder with a magic item, and then you can plan ahead to deal with that. But all of a sudden, you're like, right, they're not going to get me because I've planned ahead, and surprise, Pathfinder, and you're dead. And you're like, you don't know if that Pathfinder is going to come on that unit or another unit on the side, or even if they're going to roll enough dice to get it in the first place.
That's true. I would say yes. There's the 9. So I don't think new players will be playing this from the get-go, right? I think this is an extra layer. So I think new players won't start learning the game with this. So I think it'll be experienced players. I think with 9 communal ones and 2 special ones, I think it's pretty reasonable to expect people to remember the 9 generic ones vaguely. And then 2, like when you go over your army list with your opponent, you'll just mention what your 2 command abilities are for your army. So I think, players of your caliber, Danny, and your experience, I think you'll probably, I would say, and feel free to disagree with me, I'd say you'll be okay remembering what their command abilities and what their possibilities are. I'm not sure how this is going to affect the clock. Like, are we going to need more time?
It's going to absolutely eat into your clock because of all those because believe it or not, I actually did some science, Chris. I sat down and I rolled those 3 command dice 209 times I got bored at that point, so that's why it's a random number.
I was going to ask, why is it 209? Is that a prime number, Danny? What is that?
So I got 2 swords 26 times. I got 3 swords 51 times. I got 4 swords, which was the most, 62 times, and then 5 times 40. So basically, on average, you're going to get 3, 4, or 5 dice, 5 swords.
Exactly. Yes. I have two friends that have run the numbers, and yes, I think 3 or 4 were the most likely. 2, because I'm a nerd, Danny, 2 separate friends that knew nothing of each other doing this both messaged me to say, I've run the numbers in Python, and these are the results. Because what can I say? I'm a very cool guy. So yes, okay. So you run the numbers, and what do you infer from those?
Each of those faction orders that you've got are 3 or 4 swords. So realistically,
or two.
Yeah, a couple of them. So realistically, you're only going to get to do 1 faction order a turn if you're lucky. And quite often you'll roll less and you won't be able to use them at all. So if you want to make command dice part of your army, you're probably going to have to buy some more, and that's eating into points. So at that point, you're like, well, looking at the command factions, is that actually going to be a bonus to my army? Do I spend an extra 30 points to definitely get that Thunderous Charge 1, or do I just spend that 30 points and put a Brewer's Strength on the unit that I'm probably going to cast it on anyway and get it?
And then it's guaranteed.
And some of the, I looked at the list as well. I was like, I've got a tournament in 2 weeks. And I thought, right, how are command dice going to actually affect my army? And I'm taking undead. Unfortunately, I'm taking an elite fast undead, werewolves and vampires. So no shambling. So that's one of the orders I can't use at all. And because it's fast and elite, I did a test game with them. They're charging into combat every turn. I didn't actually get to use any of my faction orders for the undead at all in the entire game, straight out. So the whole game.
Yeah. So did you spend? But you didn't spend any points on the dice, right?
No, I didn't spend any points on the dice. So
it didn't cost you anything, but you didn't gain anything either.
No. So literally,
what about your opponents?
The Basilians, they got their Iron Resolve 1 on Julius 1 turn. The rest of the game, because it was such low numbers, I was literally, get a reroll hit here, reroll wound there, and that unit gets a wound back. So 90% of the games, I was just using those 1.1s, and all the others, that of the higher numbers, were such niche actions, they didn't play any point in that first game whatsoever. So
I'm working on my Trident Realm. Yeah, I mean, although I would say I'd rather this was kind of lighter rather than heavier. I'd like this to be impactful but not game winning. I'd rather it was less useful than too useful, if that makes sense.
But then you're really eating into your time, because rather than just having a Blade of Slashing or a Mace of Crushing on whatever unit, you're now having to spend extra moments thinking, who do I need this one on? Who do I need that one on? And all of a sudden, and a lot of the time you'll forget niche ones because you're like, oh, I could have cast that, used that one there. It gets really complicated, and you're going to probably need some more tokens to mark which unit's got what. And it's turning into a little bit of a counting thing,
a bit too much housekeeping.
Which is one of the problems with Vanguard.
Oh yeah, I think if you've got a token which has 3 different status effects on it, you need to look at the rules of the game again. So I think if you're making tokens like that. So what I would say, Danny, is so I'm playing Trident Realm this year. I'm working on the army now, busy beavering away, and I've got 70 points left of the 2,300 points, which I'm not sure what to do with. So I might add in a cheap hero, I might add in an extra blue dice, I might add in a magic item. I'm not sure, and I'm going to test some bits and pieces and just see what I think helps the army the most. I'm planning on, so the Trident Realm have got 2 abilities. One I think costs 3 points, and it gives 1 unit Pathfinder, which potentially could be useful for my Placoderms or my Gigas or something. But the one I'm going to just spam every turn, I can do it twice. It costs 2, and I can basically put a Bark Skin token on 1 unit. So I was going to just put them on. either my tidal swarm or my placoderms or my gigas or something, just to put an ablative wound on something. And I think without really thinking about it, I'm just going to do that every turn. I think if my tidal swarm might be shot at, I might put 2 ablative wounds on that. But if not, to be honest, I'm probably putting them on my placoderms ones. So yes, there will be some movement tricks that will be occasionally important to know. But I think for the most part, I actually don't think this is going to be costing me an awful lot of. Although in fairness, I'm not a very good player, as you know, Danny, and I'm not super competitive. Yeah. But I'm not thinking this is going to take a load of my time.
Yeah, what you basically said there confirms like what I believed from my games. It's either going to be a lot of bean counting. It'll be like 1 point here, 1 point here, 1 point there, 1 point there, or it's going to be a very niche thing that's probably going to be a bit of a gotcha for your opponent. Hello?
Yeah, I think it's what I like. What I potentially like though is adding a little bit of flavour to it. I mean, someone of your caliber. Wait a sec, because it takes a few seconds. Okay, go for it, buddy.
Yeah. So basically, what you were saying there is like what I found in my games is counting small wounds here or there, like slight mitigation, or it's going to be large gotchas that you can't plan for. Yeah, or I've almost looking at it like it's a mod for a video game. So there'll be great things that you can do in it, but also there'll be glitches that aren't going to work so well.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to be honest. I think some of the command abilities, bear in mind I haven't played this once. Clem and my friend Andrew did play with command dice, so they had a game and they had a good time, and they did actually play on the clock. So they enjoyed it. I'm not sure how impactful it was in the game, but they gave it a go and said it was fun. But it's going to be super interesting. I don't think, for example, I'm thinking specifically about the regen on the 5-up one. I'm not sure how thematic that feels, and I don't. When 4th edition Kings of War comes out, I'll be very surprised if these command abilities are the ones that make the cut. In all of these ones, if that makes sense. Yeah, I suspect there will be changes, and I think there will be refinements. And I think as we play, we're going to figure out which ones work and which ones don't, and how should we use these command abilities, because as you said, in Firefight it's super cool. So I just think I think the idea is good. We're not necessarily at the final state yet, and that's kind of okay. I think
it's just going to add a lot more complexity to the balance. I mean, every year we get a Clash update to finally tune everything, and this is just adding a whole extra hassle on top of that. There's good things in it, like being working for infantry and large infantry, because the game's become quite dominant from flyers and shooting, and we need ways of mitigating that, and this is a way of mitigating it. But the game, I believe itself, it's a game of toys. You're spending lots of money to paint and build toys that you want to get on the table, and you want them to be good. The rules are just something that you use to play with them. It's one of the problems, like even from a financial point for Mantic, somebody new gets into the game, they get the big army box, and then they're like, they've got all this brilliant infantry and stuff, and they're like, I want to build my tribesmen, and everybody online goes, you need pack hunters, so now you need to buy electric bows to be exactly what's competitive, or you've not got enough of the ceremonial guard in that box. So it's almost like you're buying into the game, and then you're immediately finding out that all the basic plastic stuff that is where Mantic makes its money, actually you've got to make it all shooting and flying and stuff to be able to compete in that game.
Is it to that level though, Daddy, do you think?
Not massively, but it's a great game. We all love it. It's what we're talking about. But it's those rough edges that could be smoothed out and just make it a bit more of a better gaming experience. Because all the podcasts, hey, we can do this with Command Dash, we can do this with Command Dash, we can do that. But I think they'll be great to play with. I don't think Command Dice will be fantastic to play against because of just the way they work. And like I say, it's the planning ahead. It's the tactical maneuvering. And a lot of the Command Dice are going to mitigate what you can do.
So do you think it will sort of make interesting, skillful play? Do you think it'll kind of mitigate that slightly and kind of cover up for bad play a little bit? I mean, but I'm particularly thinking with the movement ones, maybe.
Yeah, it's basically like Monopoly. You're getting a get out of jail free card. So rather than learning how to position your units properly, and you go, oh my God, I've screwed up here. I can't get that unit out of here. You're not learning from that. You can just go, get out of jail free. They get to move out of the way, and everything's fun. So it's a tactical option, but it's also, I don't want to say it promotes sloppy play, but
as a sloppy player myself, listen, I know Andrew did that against Clem and got one of his very important units out of a nasty trap and went on to win the game. Spoiler alert, dear listener. But is that not positive for new players, though?
Yeah, but to a degree, but they've got to learn the rules well enough to know to do that. And there's already quite a lot of rules to learn, what with all the spells and all the magic items and all the different scenario and all the different everything else. And now they've got to learn all this on top of it. I know it is optional, but I can't see it staying optional forever. At some point, they've got to make a decision whether we're going to have this or we're not. And that's going to split the community, because by that point, there's going to be lots of people who love it and there'll be some people who hate it. It's the same what happened with Withdraw. At some point,
I was just about to mention that, buddy. I was just about to mention Withdraw. Yeah. I feel sometimes Mantic wants to make a decision, and then a loud minority on the internet shout at them, and they go, optional, maybe optional. Hey, I think what we're saying, Danny, and please feel free to disagree. I think you don't mind the idea of command dice at all. It's just you want them used in a slightly different way. Is rather than as a get out of jail card, rather than kind of gotchas, and maybe there could be more of a refinement. Is that fair to say, or you would just prefer that this extra layer wasn't in the game?
Just not in the game. I don't think it needs it. I think some of it works, but I think a lot of it doesn't. And at the moment, the way it's working, I've only played a few tester games. 6 months down the line, I'll look at it again and review my ideas. But from my initial look at it, I'm not impressed. I think there's a lot of things in the game that
we do have to keep saying that these are just our initial thoughts. We don't know. I'm thinking of it as an extra little layer of flavour, because rightly or wrongly, people do criticise Kings of War and say, there's not all the armies feel the same, which is absolutely not true. But there's there's people on the internet that will tell you there's no difference between the armies. Completely not true, but still. So this is an extra bit of flavour.
Yeah, but I think the flavour should actually come from the models and the toys and their particular rules themselves, instead of adding in something extra. A really weird niche thing is the dwarf upgrade. You can get vengeance, brilliant, but free dwarves are supposed to have better berserkers. It's more thematic to have berserkers in a free dwarf army. They're actually better in the regular dwarf army, and now the dwarves get vengeance, so it makes their slayers a lot more better because they can have crushing 2 on the counter charge. And the free dwarves don't get that.
So that's that's thematically doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's more of a kind of I think maybe if people who wrote those rules look at it, they go, oh yeah, you're right, actually that's not thematic, we need to adjust that.
And also the stealthy, you can give that to goblins or halflings, but it's only till the end of your turn. So if you win the roll for first turn and you put stealthy on, then your opponent goes and they're going to be -1 to hit you. But if you don't go second, they go first, then you cast stealthy on yourself, and it ends at the end of the turn. So unless you go first, you don't actually get to use your stealthy at all.
Yeah, although I don't know, maybe okay, if you don't get to use it, but I'm not sure. Maybe it's otherwise it's too powerful if it's guaranteed. I don't know. I don't know enough about it, to be honest.
But that's then only a 50-50 chance. So you basically can't use one of your command abilities if you lost the roll to go first.
Yeah.
So
I don't know,
there's a lot,
because it sounds powerful. It does sound powerful. So maybe if there's a 50-50 chance, I don't know. But again, Danny, to be honest, I don't know enough about it to have an opinion. Okay, a question which I've completely forgotten. Danny, can I ask you just to check your notes, just to make sure that we've addressed all the points?
Yeah, I think so. There's nothing too much. Let's say there are some good bits in it, like things that I like, but I think overall, if there was a tournament, I get to go to a lot of tournaments, but if I've got a choice between one with command dice or one without, I'm probably going to pick the one without. I say at the moment we've got optional withdraw and optional allies. Generally in the UK we don't have either. Sometimes we've got allies, but we don't use withdraw in the UK. If they did and I had a choice, it wouldn't bother me too much. But if there's a choice between command dice or not, I'm going to take the not. So like I say, there is good stuff in there, but I'd rather they spent all that time rebalancing the actual units. I mean, there's loads of people who've got loads of gorgeous war machines on the shelf that they want to use and want to play in the game, but they know if they're going to put them on the table, they're not going to have as good a chance of winning because they just don't quite work as well. So
war machines are so tricky to balance, because if they're just a tiny bit too good, then people spam them, and it feels at that point like I'm playing 40k or something, which is let's be honest, dear listener, not a compliment when I say it.
When Mantic first mentioned this, it was just like they oft asked for command dice. I was like, who the hell's after this? I've talked to like literally hundreds of players. Nobody's like ever mentioned like, hey, not many people play Vanguard anymore. You know what the flagship game needs? Some of that magic. It was like, where did this thing for command dice come from? And somebody said there was like a discussion. So I went back, I listened to all the Countercharge podcasts about what they were hoping for the future. And they have some great ideas in there about using characters to unlock units and rearranging the system so you don't get spam armies. I was like, good idea. And then they said command dice. I was like, no. And that was the one that we got. So
interesting.
Like, oh, never mind.
But who knows? I mean, the other stuff may be coming, buddy. And there's also my idea of using D8s. So let's, I'll move on quickly before you have a chance to shout at me. Hey, listen. So which army are you playing this year then? Are you going to mix and match, or are you going to take your free dwarves or your undead? Or
I've qualified for free dwarves at Masters 3 years in a row now. Next tournament I'm taking undead. I'm hopefully having my Basilians ready for Brighton, and I'm hopefully trying to get a Royal Deer army painted to take to Warfare, because we're going to try and get a bunch of us are going to take Royal Deer armies to try and get them to Masters.
That sounds really cool. I love the Raw Deal list. I think it's really cool. I also think it's actually very thematic as well. So I'm sad it's not a bigger thing in the game, because I think it's cool. But my point was actually, Danny, and you know me, I get sidetracked very easily. So if you think about the army that you're going to do at the next tournament that has dice, what are you going to do? Are you going to spend points to get an additional blue dice? What are your thoughts?
I'm just not going to bother. I'll roll the 3 basic dice. I'll get an extra roll to hit or an extra wound back here and there. I'm not going to worry about the rest, because I don't think it's going to have as much of an impact on the game. I'd just rather take that brew of strength rather than maybe possibly getting a Thunderous Charge 1 at some point.
I understand. Oh, and Danny, by the way, while we mention it, hey, if you want to do your Trident Realm for Clash next year, please come and join our team. Although I know you're more likely to be successful than we are, so you might not want to join,
Chris, I'm already the team captain of the King of Hearts team. I can't but
they'll be all right without you, Danny. They'll be all right. They don't need you. They know what they're doing. We did get photoed by the massive King of Hearts flag. That now you mention it. All right, fair enough. All right, I begrudgingly accept you have a better offer.
I moved about 6 months ago, and all my models survived the move perfectly. And then I opened the Trident Realms box and went, oh, no.
No! Oh, okay. Just to make sure you have enough excuses in play, throw that out there as well. And also, all my models are smashed. Only for those, though. None of the other armies. Okay, Danny. Now, okay.
To be honest, it's like I've always quite liked fixing up armies, so I don't mind too much.
No, I mean, funnily enough, my Trident Realm army, when I took it to Cardiff a couple of years ago, got completely smashed by Lufthansa on the way back. despite assurances it won't be, it'll be fine. Look, we'll put this little sticker that says fragile on it. But it literally took me 30 minutes of gluing, and it was all right. But that's all in the past. I'm doing a brand new all Mantic army. That was kind of half Mantic and half kind of Hadros Wrath of Kings models. But I'm doing an all Mantic army, buddy, from scratch. Super. Okay, buddy. So we talked command dice. Do you have any other? I get what you're saying. I think it's going to be really interesting because I could see it going both ways. I could see it, and again, dear listener, we're very new to this idea, and I haven't played any test games. I could see it just being a little bit, nudging things a little bit and not having a huge effect on the game, which actually, to be honest, is what I want. That's my preference. Or I could see it somehow being super important and people put loads of points in. And I'm going to be really interested to see what happens. But yeah, there we go, Danny. So apart from command points, if you want to just have a couple of minutes to just discuss, obviously you've read the new Clash book. If you set aside command dice, what are your thoughts?
There's new scenarios are fantastic. I was testing the command dice, I used the compass points one, and that is just brilliant. I love it. It's one of my new favourite ones. I haven't tried the others out, but there's some interesting bits in there. That's a very good tactical play, working out how to do them. The Abyssalist is fantastic, although they've done something weird with Multibusu. I mean, we've got a pre-copy, so I'm hoping to sort that out for. So I don't know if the pre-copy that we got to look at was the final printed one, because there's one or two little bits in there. But the Trident Realms list is great.
It's actually done. Just a little look behind the curtain. That's actually the second pre-copy we had. We had a first pre-copy, and then we had a list. We've given a list of corrections, and I said, can't we just have the new PDF when it's ready? So that's version 2, as far as we're aware of.
Yeah, so there's one or two little bits. I'm like, what's that? But overall, I say the rest of the updates have been really good. We didn't need a huge amount, but the ones that they have put in have been great. So I'm
loving things like progressive scoring, and as you said, the new objectives just look super cool, really fun, really interesting. Cool. And hey, as I'm playing Trident Realm, and I'm very much obsessed with Trident Realm at the moment, did you ever look at the Trident Realm list? What did you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the Trident King upgrade because they don't make a Trident King model.
I've got an Empire of Dust chariot.
Oh, you've got your little tentacle thing on the front, haven't you? I saw the picture of
yes, exactly, buddy, exactly. So I've then got a Chovar, which is also doubling up as my tidal swarms. So there's a Chovar pulling the chariot, and I've got a Dungeon Saga version 1 Salamander. But what I think I'm going to do is slice off his Salamander sword, which I think looks very cool. And my friend Manuel is 3D printing me some Mantic tridents. So I think he's going to have a trident. And what I've done actually is, because he's got ensnare, so I put 2 ensnarers, I glued them to the Chovar, so they're kind of riding along on the Chovar. And I'm going to give him the Life Leech 2 Naiad only aura, and he's going to ride around with my 2 hordes of Worm Riders, hopefully killing stuff and regenning is the idea.
Yep.
And life leeching.
Well,
and it's just lots and lots of Naiads, two regiments of Placoderms with the 5-point upgrade to give them an extra unit strength, because I think that's amazing. I mean, bear in mind I'm a rubbish player, Daddy. We have to keep saying that. But that, to me, 5 points for an extra 1 unit strength, that sounds, on a Defense 6 thing with Phalanx, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I've got all the Gigas in there. Yeah, it's no room for Ector, which is a shame because he's such a cool model and he's got such cool rules, but he's a utility piece. Yeah, he is, but I can't fit him in because I'm kind of, as I keep saying to everyone, we're kind of trying to build a machine. We're trying to build a car, but he's a sort of a fancy engine or something. But if I put him in, I only have 2 wheels, so it just somehow I just can't get the points to work. Well, even at 2,300 points.
I was quite upset with the Trident Realms update because I've been waiting ages for it. But I love the deep sea, gribbly, coral, underwater themes, and they did all frogs. I was like, oh no! So I'm almost.
It's an interesting one.
I'm quite tempted to get a Night Stalker ambush box and put that in and convert it. And
so this is exactly what I was just going to say now, buddy. Yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do, because I've got, I think, 3 Night Stalkers ambush boxes. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with them, and I think I'm going to make the Butchers my depth horrors, and then the mutants or whatever. I thought I'd make them Thul. That was exactly what I was going to say, buddy.
Well, I've got some baby crabs that I can use from the League of Infamy. I can use them as tidal swarms. And also, if you get a load of seashells, I'm going to use them as tidal swarms, but I'm going to get a load of the spare Tormentor arms and stick them out so it looks like the hermit crabs crawling along. So,
that's such a good idea, Danny. That's such a good idea. Yet another good reason why you should get on Team Trident Realm. These King of Hearts, they don't love you, Danny. What can they give you that we can't, other than, competent play? Super.
Well, cool. Yeah, because it's all smashed. And if I plan it right, convert it right, I might do it properly so I can use it as Night Stalkers or Trident Realms. So that saved me a lot of work. One of my knuckers is actually, I chopped a Mind Screech in half and basically built a big coral rocky bit and had all the tentacles coming out. So it looks like an eel squiddy thing coming out of the rock.
Oh, that sounds really cool. That sounds super cool. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the froggy thing, because it's with the Trident Realm, you can go down. It's almost like you need 3 different ambush boxes as a minimum for the Trident Realm, maybe 4, right? Because you've got the naiads, you've then got the frogs, you've then got the deep ones, and then you've also got Thul and all that stuff. So there's lots of different ways you can do the same army, which is super cool, but at the same time, actually pretty confusing. I've never had so much difficulty making a list as I do with the Trident Realm. Everything's just so weird.
I used them for the majority of 2nd edition. They were like my first proper Mantic army. Absolutely loved them, but when 3rd edition came in, the list had changed so much that everything I had, I couldn't quite make a decent list without getting a load of new units. And I just thought, sod it, I'll put them in a box, wait for the update. And I've just done loads of different armies instead in the meantime and not gone back to them.
And do you remember the way Inspiring worked as well? So it was like Inspiring, but Cephalopod only, or whatever it was. It was like, flipping heck, so you really, really had to specialise then. Cool.
Yeah, but I like that because that gave you themes. So rather than having like a frog leading some naiads, it was all like, I say, you could have like it properly themed battle groups, but they changed that and it's been better for the game. But I say it's just taken a little bit of that theme away. It just didn't quite work as well as I hoped it did. But
Danny, you've just reminded me of a question I had for you, and actually I completely agree with you. I was either going to go frogs or naiads because I want it to look like an coherent army. So Danny, can you compare for me, and just bringing it back because I forgot to ask this question. Can you compare for me how you feel about formations against how you feel about the command dice?
Formations were brought in originally, I believe, because some units weren't getting taken as much, and by putting a formation in, give them a boost, it'll bring them in line with the rest of the list. And because they were themed, like Ilona had like a dark cult of vampires, some of them were super powerful, some of them you never see, and over time they've got balanced out. Now what they're doing with the ambush boxes, weirdly, I don't like that, because the person coming into the game wants to play ambush. They paint it up. They're like, I can use this formation. And you can't actually use that you can't use formations in an ambush game. So it's almost, you can then use it in
but they can still use but they can still use the models. They can still use
the models, but then they can't use the actual formation, which kind of annoys
until
me,
they start doing more hobby stuff. And then they've got enough points to do a full game of Kings of War, Danny. Yeah, I think we're all right with that. I think we're all right. We've moaned enough. I think we're okay. We're not going to die on this hill.
Well, that's all right, Chris. That's what this is just one episode. You've got to have a bit of balance. We've got 60, 70 podcasts about Mantic's the best thing ever. Oh, if it was whipped cream, I'd spray it on my nipples and lick it off. We've got to have one where you've got to get in the shower and wash the whipped cream off now and again so you can start again.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right, Danny. I couldn't put it better myself. Wash off that whipped cream,
Well,
some tears in the shower, I imagine.
Stagnant.
Yes.
It's going to go stagnant now and again, and like
Tobias from Arrested Development in his jean shorts in the shower, crying to himself. Perfect. No, that's what a way to end it, mate. Any final thoughts before we wrap up this Mup Shorts? No.
Let's just see how it goes. I mean, I can be miserable about it now, but I say it's only going to play out over time. I might be wrong, Chris. It doesn't happen often, and I'm welcome to be slapped by anybody if I am.
I mean,
I'll put my money where my cheek is.
Yeah, I mean, my feeling is it's going to evolve, right? It's, I think the fundamental idea, I think, is a good one, but I think what the abilities are and what you can spend your points on is going to change subtly but significantly between now and 4th edition. But we'll wait and see, buddy, as you say.
I think it's going to cause a lot more hassle than it's going to solve.
Is it? Yeah, I mean, it's.
I think so.
It could be one of these things where people think it's, like the changes to shooting. People explode on Facebook fanatics, and then 6 months later people have forgotten about it. But it'd be interesting to see, buddy. But I have faith in the Rules Committee and in Mantic that if this doesn't work, I think they will either change it or abandon it, and I have the confidence in them that they'll do what's best for the game and not just how they can sell the most models, So yeah, I'm looking forward to trying it, and I know deep down if it's not quite right, it'll be fixed, frankly.
Yeah. Well, I've got 3 tournaments over the next couple of months, so looking forward to getting them. And start of November, I've got a firefight event on the Saturday up in Rushden, and then on the Sunday I'm going down to Brighton for a Kings of War. And earlier on in the year, when I did that, I got the double. I won the firefight tournament on the Saturday, and then I won the Kings of Tour tournament on the Sunday. So I'm going for 2 doubles a year, Chris.
Oh, that is sweet. That is sweet. And hey, Danny, while you're there, I know you're going to be very busy, but if I could ask you on the pod, so you can't say no, obviously, if you could do some little more roving reporting stuff for us, that would be amazing. Your stuff is so it's just your amazing personality, right? It's so entertaining to listen to.
Christopher.
Hey, there we go. And the other thing I was going to ask, Danny, is after you've done all this Kings of War with the command dice, let's get back together and just you can update us on how you feel about command dice.
Yeah, 6 months down the line, it's a date, Christopher.
Hey, there we go. Ooh. Yes, perfect. Hey.
In the meantime, I'll get on with some more narrative stuff. I'll see what Walt's up to, and we'll keep the dear listeners thoroughly entertained, shall we?
Oh, yes, very much so with that attitude. Perfect. Mate, thank you so much for joining me. I think this has been a really helpful little episode for explaining to people, just quite a sensible few little concerns, really, quite frankly.
Yeah, like I say, it's got to be balanced. I mean, if we're like, as I said, all the other podcasts, we're like, guess what I can do? It's not matter what you can do. It's like the person playing against you. How are they? I think they'll be good to play with. I don't think they'll be so good to play against. I think it'll.
You broke up a little bit there, but I think we got the sense of it. Danny, thank you so much, and thank you very much to dear listener. And please feel free to either comment on the podcast and let us know your thoughts about Command Dice, or obviously reply on our Discord or our Facebook group. We'd very much like to hear from you.
And that's so impersonal. You can come up to me and swear in person. Hello?
I think you might have broken up, Danny, but I think you just told a funny joke that we didn't hear, but that's fine. Cool.
I basically said that Facebook's so impersonal, you can just come up to me and swear in person.
Oh, I'm with you. Perfect. Yeah, it's a little bit like that. Use caps all the time, all the caps. That's what some people seem to do. Yeah, there you go. Now you're really shouting at people. Cool. Yes, perfect. Thanks, mate. Thanks, dear listener.
No problem. Go back to painting.